Hello, you legendary people. Welcome to or welcome back to Lauren's Legends. I hope that you are all doing well and that you had a wonderful Easter weekend. Today we are diving into what could possibly be one of the most haunted prisons in all of America and the world. Also, please be aware that we will be talking about torture and dark matters in this video. We will be diving right into the history and the mystery of the Eastern State Penitentiary located in Pennsylvania. For many years, this location has been referred to as hell on earth, and that is truly the only way to really describe it and its horrors. The prison opened in 1829, and it was well known worldwide for its unique architecture and for its extreme discipline. This was a very advanced building before its time and even had running water and heat before the White House. What makes this prison's architecture so significant was that it was designed by John Haviland, and he used his wagon wheel design. This means he started his blueprint with a 7-cell block in the center and then built other cell blocks around in a circular shape with corridors in between. Each of these cell blocks came equipped with its own toilet, and each block had its own exercise yards. It was set up this way to make each inmate basically be solitary, but with such a new revolutionary design, before the prison's construction was even completed, it was already way over capacity. John Haviland was hired to inspire fear in his design, and how he would do that was to make the outside look very gothic. He got his outdoor look of the prison from England and Ireland. His goal was to scare people away even before they created a crime, and before going to prison to get reformed. With this prison being such a psychological mind mess, people from all over the world wanted to come and witness it, and it actually became the blueprint for over 300 prisons throughout the world. Back then, and before all the studies and scientific facts we have today, people loved putting people in solitary confinement, and they believed that this was the ultimate way to reform wrongdoers. And to the outside, it really looked to be working. But at this time, the public had no idea about the horrifically dark things and punishments that were happening behind those walls every day. Charles Dickens actually visited in 1842 because he questioned the humanity of solitary confinement. And after what he witnessed, he was quoted as saying that solitary confinement was like being buried alive, and that it was immeasurably worse than any torture of the body. Guards and inmates that had left the prison began letting on to the darker side of the truth. They reported that there was a water bath where the inmates were dunked with ice cold water, and then they were taken outside in the winter's freezing temperatures and hung on the side of the wall until the ice formed on their skin. There have also been reports on something that was dubbed as the mad chair. An inmate would be bound so tightly their circulation would be cut off, and this would oftentimes require amputations. The next report is so horrific that it sends shivers up my own spine. It is said that they had an iron gag. It was an iron collar that was strapped to the inside of their mouths. While their hands were then tied behind their backs, if they moved at all, it would cause devastating tears and cuts in their mouths. Then, if that wasn't enough, these creative evil minds made something they referred to as the hole. This was an underground cell that was small and had nothing in it. It was damp, dank, and dark. No light at all got in, and they were given no food while in the hole. Researchers believe that at least 14 people starved to death there. In this prison, executions were not something that was done, but Between the guards and the inmates, there were numerous murders that were overlooked, and they seemed to have their own way of justice that they would enact. With all the terrible things going on, and just the fact that inmates regularly try to escape, there were many attempts, but the biggest and the most notable happened on April 3rd, 1945. It was carried out by 12 inmates, and it was later found that over a year, these inmates had managed to dig a huge, undiscovered tunnel that went on for 97 feet under the prison's wall. All the escapees were caught and they were returned within hours. But this made the security and their treatment all the more outrageous. This prison also took inmates of the lightest offenses to the absolute worst, and there were many infamous inmates. The most well-known was the most famous mobster, Al Capone. And another was a bank robber named Willie Sutton, who was known as Slick. He was one of the 12 men that had tried to escape through the tunnel that had gotten caught. My favorite well-known prisoner was a dog named Pep. The pup was arrested in 1924 for killing a cat, and he had a mugshot taken and even had an inmate number. It is well known that Pep was wrongly convicted and was only placed in the prison to raise the morale. Pictures and reports showed that he lived like a king until his dying day. This prison operated from 1829 through 1971. Though the solitary confinement system thankfully ended due to overcrowding in 1913. The prison did continue operating until multiple awful riots were breaking out due to the thousands of extra prisoners that construction had never been built to house. The guards could not handle it anymore, and Eastern State Penitentiary closed its doors. As time went on, it was made a historical landmark, and then it sat abandoned, and then it was used for storage. Finally, it was reopened in the 1990s. There was a lot of work done to restore and stabilize the structures. It was around this time that they opened it up for guests and tours, and that is when the ghost story started flooding in. Just walking through this place and hearing the history will make you shiver without even seeing a ghost. But it is widely believed that the grounds are haunted by the thousands of people that met their ends on these grounds. With over 180 years of terrible history behind the walls, it is heavily believed to still house several dark souls that refuse to leave or do not know how to, as if they received an eternal sentence. With so many reports, the prison has been featured on the Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures, Most Haunted Live, Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunter, and even MTV's show Fears. The shows came out because the reports and the scary experiences of the staff, visitors, inmates, and guards that have spoken up since the 1940s. There is no exact number of known deaths, but we know that there was an extremely high number, and they were commonly tragic. It is no surprise that many of these people that lost their lives have unfinished business. Even Al Capone told others that a ghost had come into a cell. He and several others believe that there is a dark portal that allows spirits and other creatures to go back and forth between the unknown veil. A very common report from visitors and staff members is that they constantly hear footsteps going down the corridors, and they tend to hear terrible screams and wailing coming from inside the closed cells. And when they go to investigate, they see dark, translucent figures. A well-known specter that has been regularly seen is that of Joseph Taylor. It is reported that he ended an inmate named Michael Duran in 1884, and after he took his life, he just went back to his cell and went to sleep. People report seeing his ghost walking the halls, and he then turns into a cell and just disappears. In the oldest part of the prison, there is a constantly seen apparition. It is said to be a shadowy figure that stands perfectly still, sometimes not seen until a picture or video is looked at later. It is said that when you do see it or notice it, it will then dash away. The most famous and very controversial video that has been taken there was taken by ghost hunters, and it shows what appears to be a shadowy figure on a catwalk of cell block 4. This cell block is widely known to see this exact thing. In cell block 6, staff report seeing shadows moving against the walls on their rounds, and the staff is reported to feel very sick and oppressive when they leave the block. They then feel perfectly fine. For years, cell block 12 has been a site plagued by disembodied laughter and sounds of tapping and screaming. And of course, Pep the dog is spotted all over the grounds. Just as in life, when he had free reign to go wherever he pleased. Even the guards' towers aren't safe from the afterlife. A commonly reported sighting of a figure is seen standing in the guards' towers. One of the most disturbing tales comes from Gary Johnson. He helped to maintain the locks at the prison, and he was doing his rounds in the early 1990s. And he was fumbling with an old lock, and he was in cell block 4. He said that when he unlocked the lock, a force gripped him so tightly he was frozen and he could not move. He said that it was a deeply negative and horrible energy that exploded through him out the cell. When this happened, he saw tormented faces appearing on the cell wall, and one of them in particular was beckoning to him. He believed that when he opened a lock, a gateway opened that allowed spirits caught behind the door to escape. Over and over and over again, people report sudden chills, wails, screams, footsteps, and off-the-chart EMF readings and feeling sick. Do you believe that there is truth to all of these reports? Do you believe that this place is so evil and practice so many evil deeds? Could it still be holding that energy? Do you think that you could stay the night there? Please let me know in the comments below. I don't think I would stay the night there alone, but it is very interesting to me. So please let me know what you think about the Eastern State Penitentiary, and I hope that you have a wonderful week, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.